My parents told me I was too independent to deserve their support, while my brother's failures were celebrated with a new car. I'm 23 and my name is Ben. My older brother, Kieran, is 25. For as long as I can remember, Kieran has existed in a world where gravity simply doesn't apply. Every stumble was a tragedy, every minor effort a Herculean achievement, and every whim a divine command. He was the sun around which our family planet revolved, while I was just a distant, silent rock orbiting in the cold. I learned self-sufficiency early, not as a virtue, but as a necessity. I got my first part-time job at 16, bought my own books, my own clothes, saved for my own beat-up car. Kieran, meanwhile, had his tuition, his apartment, and his lifestyle funded entirely by our parents. His passion was filmmaking, or, more accurately, the idea of being a filmmaker. He was supposed to graduate 2 years ago from a decent liberal arts college. Instead, in his final semester, he announced he was dropping out. He and some acquaintances had made a short film that got a handful of views on a niche online platform, and he declared that the structured oppression of academia was stifling his artistic genius. He needed to move to the city to breathe, to create. My parents, instead of the intervention he desperately needed, threw him a "Pursuing Your Dreams" farewell party. They helped him secure a small, overpriced studio apartment in a trendy neighborhood, promising to cover rent for a year while he got on his feet. I, meanwhile, was navigating my own final year at a state university a 3-hour drive away. When I'd started, my parents sat me down with a spreadsheet. They explained with an air of weary generosity, financially stretched because of Kieran's needs and an investment in his potential. I would need loans for tuition. I could live at home and commute to the local community college they offered. But if I wanted to go away to the better school I'd worked so hard to get into, it was on me. I wasn't even angry at that moment. It was just a confirmation of a long-understood truth. I took the loans. I worked 30 hours a week at the campus library and during summers on landscaping crews. I learned the taste of cheap noodles and the weight of compounding interest. Kieran's year of creation bled into 18 months. The short film was followed by a conceptual video series that consisted mostly of shaky shots of his feet walking around the city, set to ambient music. He got a brand partnership with a sock subscription service that paid him in socks. My parents' calls to me were often punctuated with worried sighs about Kieran's creative struggles and the hostile, unimaginative job market he faced. They sent him money for equipment upgrades and networking coffees. Meanwhile, when my laptop died during exam week, I had to plead with the IT department for a short-term loaner and spend the next 3 months saving every spare cent to buy a refurbished model. The dissonance became a physical ache. During a holiday visit, I found Kieran lounging on my parents' sofa, complaining about the creative block induced by their suburban energy. He was discussing with our mother the merits of a new, expensive camera lens he needed. I finally snapped. I confronted them, my voice trembling with a fury I'd bottled for years. Why does his dream get a blank check, while my reality gets a payment plan? The conversation was a masterclass in deflection. "You're so strong, Ben," my mother said, her eyes glistening. "You don't need our help like Kieran does. He's fragile. His path is unconventional." My father nodded, adding, "You've always had your head on straight. We're proud of how independent you are. Kieran needs a safety net." They were pathologizing my competence and enabling his incompetence. It was a shell game of affection and resources, and I was always the one left watching the empty cup. I left that visit early, the hollow feeling in my chest heavier than ever. Then came the ultimate test. My graduation was approaching. It was on a Saturday in May. I'd sent a formal invitation, a digital one, but I'd also called, "Try and keep my voice light. It's at 2. I can get you guest passes." There are good restaurants nearby we could go to after. There was a long pause on the other end, the kind filled with silent, frantic communication between my parents. "Oh, Ben, sweetie," my mother finally said, "that weekend is complicated. Your father has a critical golf tournament with his clients, and I've promised to help Mrs. Alden with her charity luncheon. It's a huge commitment." A cold clarity washed over me. "It's 2 hours of your life, Mom. The ceremony itself is 90 minutes. You could drive up in the morning and be back by evening." More silence. Then my father came on the line, his voice adopting that reasonable, paternal tone that used to make me doubt my own senses. "Son, we want to be there, but these commitments are important. You understand how the world works. Kieran's got a big thing that weekend, too." "Kieran? What's he got?" Well, it's the anniversary of when he moved to the city to follow his passion. He's been feeling really down lately, comparing himself to his peers who stuck with traditional paths. We thought we'd have a little family gathering here to reaffirm our support, remind him he's loved. It's coincidentally on that Saturday. The world narrowed to the sound of my own heartbeat in my ears. "You're throwing him a you didn't graduate, but we still love you party on the day of my actual graduation?" "Don't be crass, Ben," my father said, his tone sharpening. "He needs us. You're celebrating an accomplishment. You'll have your friends, your professors. You don't need us in the stands cheering. Kieran needs a cheerleader right now. We expect you to be the bigger person here." Something in me shattered, and then instantly fused, harder and colder than before. "The bigger person," I repeated, my voice flat. "Right. I've been the bigger person my whole life. I'm done. Don't bother coming. Ever." I hung up. I didn't cry. I felt eerily calm. The final thread had been cut, but in the quiet devastation that followed, I thought of my father's parents, my grandparents. They lived across the country, but they had always been my sanctuary. Grandpa Joe was a no-nonsense retired engineer, and Grandma Ellen was the heart of the family. They knew things were a little lopsided. As Grandpa gently put once, they had helped me navigate the student loan paperwork. Their signatures steady and sure next to mine. They didn't have a vast fortune, but they had wisdom and an unshakable sense of fairness. I called them. The moment I heard Grandma's hello, "Sweetheart," the dam broke. I sobbed out the whole wretched story. The graduation, the party for Kieran, the lifetime of being second best. They listened, not interrupting, just letting me purge the poison. When I was done, Grandpa's voice came on, quiet but with steel underneath I'd rarely heard. "That's the last straw, Ben. The absolute last straw. We're getting on a plane. We'll be there for your graduation. And we're going to have some very firm words with your parents. This ends now." "Grandpa, no, you don't have to." "We do." Grandma interrupted firmly. "We should have done more, sooner. We kept hoping they'd see sense. But enabling this fantasy at your expense, it's wrong. You focus on your celebration. We'll handle the rest." I didn't know what handling the rest meant, but profound relief washed over me. At least I would have 2 people in the audience who truly wanted to be there. The confrontation happened that night. My grandparents, true to their word, landed, rented a car, and drove directly to my parents' house. I learned the details later, from a furious phone call from my father past midnight. "How dare you?" he roared into my ear. "Running to your grandparents like a spoiled child. You've turned them against us." I was bleary with sleep. "Turn them against you?" I told them the truth. Did they need turning? He ranted about the disrespectful scene they caused, how my grandfather called my parents enablers of the highest order, and told Kieran to his face that he was a parasite with a filmmaker cosplay, how my grandmother had coldly dissected their parenting, pointing out that they weren't helping Kieran. They were crippling him and, in the process, were severing all ties with me. Then he dropped the bombshell. And now, because of your little pity party, they're cutting us off. They said the supplemental help they've been giving us for Kieran's rent is done. Finished. And they have the gall to say they're redirecting those funds to you as a graduation gift and to help you get started. Do you have any idea what this will do to your brother? A strange, electric feeling shot through me. Supplemental help? For Kieran's rent? All this time, while I was scraping by, my grandparents have been quietly subsidizing my brother's aimless life because my parents had presumably asked them to? The betrayal was multi-layered, but the sudden shift in power was dizzying. I have no idea what you're talking about, I said, which was mostly true. But if they are, maybe it's because they finally want to support the child who's actually trying to build a life, not just act out of fantasy. You will call them right now and tell them to stop this insanity, my father commanded. This is family money. It stays in the immediate family. We need it for Kieran's stability. The word stability, hanging in the air, referring to a 25-year-old man playing with cameras, was a final, darkly comic punchline. No, I said simply. Goodbye, Dad. I hung up and immediately called my grandparents at their hotel. They confirmed everything. They had, for the past 2 years, been sending my parents a monthly sum to help with Kieran's expenses, under the impression it was for essential living costs while he sought employment. My parent portrayal had been carefully curated to evoke sympathy for a struggling artist. My graduation snub had been the catalyst for my grandparents to dig deeper, to ask harder questions, and they hadn't liked the answers. We're done financing a lie, Ben, Grandpa Joe said, his voice tired but resolved. That money should have been helping you all along. Consider it back pay for the support you never got. Use it to pay down your loans, get a good apartment, take a breath. You've earned it 100 times over. I accepted, not just for the money, but for the acknowledgement. It was a tangible symbol that someone saw the imbalance and was willing to correct it. I blocked my parents' and Kieran's numbers. The following days brought a torrent of texts and voicemails, pleading, guilting, raging. Kieran's messages were particularly venomous, accusing me of stealing his safety net, of being materialistic, of not understanding his artistic trauma. I deleted them all. My graduation day was bittersweet and perfect. My grandparents were there, beaming, taking 1,000,000 photos. I felt seen. After the ceremony, as we were leaving the campus grounds, I spotted them, my parents, hovering near the parking lot, looking out of place and uncomfortable. They must have driven up last minute. My father stepped forward. Ben, congratulations. The words seemed to stick in his throat. Thank you, I said, not breaking stride. Can we talk? Please, my mother asked, her eyes red-rimmed. Grandma Ellen squeezed my arm. Your call, sweetheart. I agreed to a brief conversation at a campus cafe, with my grandparents present as my buffers and witnesses. We sat with coffees, the air thick with unspoken history. We made a mistake, my father began, the script clearly rehearsed. A big one. We see that now. We got so caught up in Kieran's needs that we neglected yours. We're sorry. We are. My mother chimed in, reaching for my hand. I pulled mine back. We want to make it right. We'll come to your next celebration. We promise. We need you to talk to your grandparents. The financial situation is putting Kieran in a real bind. He started applying for jobs, you know? This has been a wake-up call for him. But he needs a soft landing. If you could just ask them to reinstate the support, maybe split it between you two. I stared at them. Even their apology was a transaction, a maneuver to restore the flow of funds to my brother. There was no remorse for the years of emotional neglect, only panic at the loss of financial enablement. No, I said, my voice calm. I appreciate the sentiment, but I don't believe you. You're not sorry you hurt me. You're sorry you got caught and that there are consequences. I need space. A lot of it. If you're truly sorry, you'll give me that space without argument, without guilt. If you can't, then I'll know this was always about the money. My mother's face crumpled, and the performative tears began. How can you be so cold? We're your parents. After everything we've done for you, what have you done for me, Mom? I asked, genuinely curious. Name one thing, after the age of 16, that you did for me that didn't also require something significant from me in return. One thing that was just about supporting me. She opened and closed her mouth, silent. My father looked away, jaw tight. Their lack of an answer was the most honest thing they'd given me in years. I have my answer, I said, standing up. I'm going to build my own life now. Don't contact me. When and if I'm ever ready to have a relationship with you, it will be on my terms, and it will not involve discussions about money or Kieran. We left them sitting there. The closure was painful but clean, like setting a broken bone. The calm lasted about a week. Then the social media war began. I'd forgotten to block Kieran on Instagram. He posted a long, vague, and dramatic thread about family betrayal, about golden children who manipulated elders against sensitive souls, about the cruelty of pulling the rug out from under someone's creative journey. He didn't name me, but the clues were obvious to anyone who knew us. He ended with a declaration that anyone who associated with the betrayer was dead to him. I was furious. He was controlling the narrative, painting himself as the victim in the very situation his idleness had created. I commented on his main post, stating facts simply. I took loans. You got rent paid. Parents skipped my graduation for your non-graduation party. Grandparents stopped funding a lie. That's it. He deleted my comment within minutes. So I launched my own offensive. I created a single detailed post. I didn't name call. I just laid out the chronology, from the differing college funding approaches to graduation day choice, to the revelation of the grandparent subsidies. I wrote about the feeling of being the backup child, the reliable one who gets overlooked because he doesn't make a scene. I didn't post it to hurt them, but to reclaim my truth. The response from our shared high school circles was mixed, some shocked, some taking sides, many just awkwardly watching the family melt down from a distance. The fight escalated in the comments, moving to public stories. Kieran was getting increasingly unhinged, his arguments becoming more contradictory. In a final, desperate bid for sympathy, he made a fatal error. He posted, "People keep saying I was handed everything. That's a lie. I had student loans too. I was going to pay them back when my film career took off. But then my so-called friends in the city used me for my ideas and dropped me, which destroyed my mental health. I have trauma. My brother just doesn't understand real struggle. It was a perfect lie, designed to equate our experiences, and it was the one that undid him." An account I didn't recognize, belonging to a woman named Tasha, commented directly on his public post. Her comment was long and brutally specific. "Kieran, this is unbelievable. I was in that film collective with you. Let's be clear. You never had student loans. You bragged constantly that your rents were paying your way so you could keep your energy pure for art, while the rest of us were drowning in debt. We never used your ideas. Your primary idea was filming pigeons from your fire escape. We let you hold the boom, Mike, sometimes to be nice. We didn't drop you. We told you repeatedly for 6 months that we were moving into actual documentary work and needed committed, skilled partners. We advised you, to your face, to go back to school or get a job in production to learn the craft. You called us sellouts. You stopped showing up to meetings. You dropped us. The only trauma you suffered was having to finally ask your parents for more money When we stopped letting you use our equipment for your YouTube vlogs. Stop lying. Your brother seems like the only one in your family with a grip on reality. The comment thread exploded. Then it was deleted. Kieran's entire Instagram account went private, and then, a few hours later, it was deactivated entirely. The evidence, however, was already screenshot and circulating among people we knew. The silence that followed was profound. My phone didn't ring with more pleas from my parents. No new social media salvos were launched. The truth, laid bare by a third party, was too stark to manipulate, too embarrassing to confront. A few days later, I received a single email from my father. It was short. Ben, we saw what was posted. We don't know what to say. Kieran is devastated. We need to focus on him right now. Perhaps you were right about needing space. We won't contact you. Don't contact us. It wasn't an apology. It was a surrender. They were choosing once again and definitively to manage Kieran's devastation over mending anything with me. But this time it felt like a gift. They were giving me the clean break I'd asked for, albeit for their own reasons. I showed the email to my grandparents. Grandma Ellen cried quiet, angry tears. Grandpa Joe just put his arm around me and said, "Their loss, Ben. A colossal, stupid loss. You have a family right here." I threw myself into my new life. I used the financial help from my grandparents to pay off a chunk of my highest interest loans and secure a solid apartment near the job I'd landed. The weight that lifted was more than financial. It was the weight of a lifetime of seeking approval that was never coming. I started therapy to unpack the damage of being the invisible child. I nurtured the friendships that had sustained me through college, people who valued me for my steadiness, not in spite of it. Sometimes, in quiet moments, a pang of grief hits me, not for the parents I have, but for the parents I deserved and never got. The family gatherings that will never be, the shared joys that will go uncelebrated. But the grief is clean, not tangled in hope or manipulation. It is an acknowledgement of a loss, not an open wound. My grandparents are my anchor. We talk weekly. They are proud of my job, my apartment, the life I'm building brick by steady brick. They never mention my parents or Kieran, and I don't ask. That chapter, with all its pain and lies and skewed priorities, is firmly closed. I am building my own story now on a foundation of truth, self-reliance, and the unconditional love of the family I chose and who chose me back. It is enough. It is more than enough. It is everything.